Hi guys, this is your master trainer Jerry North here. Welcome to the 6-week challenge of learning how to train athletes and get them living their dream instead of chasing it. This will be a 5-step process that you guys will learn, and it was created by an athlete, which was me, to train trainers how to get their athletes living their dream and avoid some of the nightmares that come along the way. These are the setbacks that are going to come. Because athletes are dreamers and they're dreaming all the time, there's going to be obstacles and setbacks. You should, as a trainer, have been through the process yourself possibly or with other athletes so you can have a better way of getting them through these nightmares so they don't wake up. Because what happens in a nightmare, usually people wake up. So we want to keep them dreaming as long as possible, and we really have to deal with those nightmares quick and help them get it. If you're having trouble with that, you can always give me a call too. I've been through a lot, not everything, but I'll figure out a way to keep them dreaming. This process is really going to teach us as trainers. It's not so much about the exercise or the drills or the conditioning or any of the stuff that we learn in school. Yes, we have to know how to do that. Yes, we have to know how to do testing. We have to create drills. We have to create goals, all that stuff that we're going to do. But at the end of the day, what we have to understand is it is more about the dream than it is anything. And if you can continually bring the dream and keep them dreaming as they're training, which is an obstacle, which is very hard to do, especially when it's a tough day. But if you can keep that dream in mind for them, and you can keep making them see that dream, and keep making them stay asleep, and keep dreaming, and seeing it, and accomplishing it, then you'll get better workouts out of them. They'll be happier, and they'll be coming back every day, even though it's really hard, right? So, learn as a trainer. It's not always about the exercise. It's not always about the drill. Yes, you have to set those up. Yes, that's what you're doing, but you have to get the dream in it, all right? And that moves us into step 1, right? So step 1 is going to be about potential, right? And what we need to know as trainers, there has to be potential, but in order for us to see what their potential is, they have to be specific with us. So they have to tell us what their position is and what sport they're going to be playing. The moment they do that, that allows us to look at them and see their potential. The first thing we're going to see is, do they look the part? Now, if they do, great. If they don't, that's fine. Because what we're going to do out of that is once we look at them, we're going to decide, okay, they look the part, okay, they don't look the part. But either way, that's going to lead them to the next step, which is going to be picking a role model, right? So once you look at them, you're going to say, hey, if you look the part, you're going to have a lot to choose from because there's so many athletes out there that play the position and the sport to choose from as a role model. But if they don't, there's only going to be a few. So it makes it a little easier, right? So the next thing that they have to do, once we see if they look the part or don't, and then we pick the right role model for them, we then have to say, do they have the ability? And what we're going to do is we're going to get the stats from the role model, and we're going to compare them to their stats. If they don't have any stats, well, that's not fun, and we'll have to wait for the first game to get stats. But if they don't have stats and they actually have some film on a game, we can take one of those games to figure out what that game was and what their stats were, and then we can kind of compare that over a season. And we're making it up, but at least we have some kind of standard to start with, right? Then the next thing after we figure out, do they have the ability, because we're looking at those stats right there. So do they look the part? Do they have the ability? And when we're looking at those stats, we'll see if they have the ability. Do they match up to their role model? If they don't, they don't. If they do, they do. The next thing we're going to do is, do they have the mindset? And in order to have the mindset, you're going to ask them a series of questions, and we'll get into those questions when we do step 1, and you're going to see if their mindset is ready for this. And they really have to have their outcome and their why, and they have to know what brought them to that point, and I'll go over that when we get to step 1. So in step 1, do they look the part? Do they have the ability? Do they have the mindset? Step 2, we're going to get results. And that sounds kind of crazy because usually it's at the end of a training that you would get results from them. But we need to know what the starting point is so we can check a standard that they have to meet. And then that will allow us to go to the next step, which is going to use their goal to create a plan. So starting point, standard, and goals, right? And you're going to need that for performance training, which we'll use the 8-12 method. For skills, which will go off the stats, and we'll create goals and standards off of their stats, as I just said. Their size, so maybe they have the same length, but they got to get their body weight up or down in order to fit their role model, right? So we'll know the starting point, the standard, and what the goal is. And then film. Do they have film, and have they done the right thing with their film that it's showing coaches the right thing? If they haven't when we watch it, then we'll teach them the standard they need to go, and then they'll need to have a goal of actually starting to get film that does that. Awards is the last thing. So they're going to want awards, and those awards are going to be whatever their role model won when they were going through the phase of, middle school to high school or high school to college or college to the pros. What awards was their role model winning, and they're going to try to meet that standard, right? And they may already have won a couple of awards, so they might have a good starting point there. So in the step 2 for results, we need results on performance, skill, size, film, and awards in order to create a starting point, know the standard, and get goals to go after, right? Once we do that, we're going to move into step 3. Step 3 is going to be take action. And what we're going to do to take action for our athletes is we're going to create a performance plan. As I said before, the performance is going to hit the 12 aspects, and it's going to have a combine, which that'll give us our starting point numbers that is similar to whatever sport they're playing, right? So we can create that goal off of that, and we'll retest to see if we reach our goals, right? The second thing is the skill drills. We're going to have to create an action plan that takes the stats of their position, their sport, and we're going to create drills to make them better at them, right? And when we do that, they're going to do those about 20 minutes a day, which I'll go into later, in order to start to get them to come second nature. Then we're going to move into a tactical plan. So the third part of this step 3 is the tactical plan, and that means they're going to know the rules, they're going to know how to coach, and they're going to know how to play. And they're going to do this, and I'll go through this by watching documentaries and reading books and starting to understand it and studying, right? Then after that, the fourth thing in here is an exposure plan. They're going to make sure that they are inviting coaches, friends, families, virtually or to the game so they can watch it so they get more exposure. More people watch it, more exposure, right? More people send it out social media wise, which is the next thing, social media. We're going to make sure that they are getting their exposure out there. They're getting film. They're having somebody there. They're watching these games and they're getting it on film and they're then making videos for it, right? Then you have to sign up for clinics, camps, and tryouts, and they have to know what their big games in the season are, and we'll have a little booklet that we fill out for that so that they know that they are getting the right exposure and they are continually, all season, every season, all day long, they're getting some type of exposure, right? And then the fifth part of step 3 is a recruitment plan, and they have to know where they're going. So we have to write that down, and then they're going to make a plan on how they get financial aid, recommendations. And what we're going to do is we're going to get them to get into their school before they're even offered, right? If they don't get the offer. Hopefully they do, but we're going to get them there. We have email templates, we have all this stuff, and we're going to teach them how to go after what they really want and have some backup plans, but really know what kind of school that they want to go to, and hopefully they pick the one and they're able to get scholarships outside of athletic and also academic, because they're going to have an academic resume and an athletic resume ready to go, and we'll get into that on the recruitment plan as we hit step 3, right? So then we're going to move on to step 4. Step 4 is going to be about character. This will tell us if they as an athlete have a good character which they can then use to help them, because at the end of the day, they could be a great athlete, they could have all the skill in the world, all the ability in the world, but if they don't have good character, they're not going to be a good fit for an organization, for a school, for a team. They're going to be in trouble. So you have to really stress character, and we'll go over that when we get into step 4. What are the big things that college coaches are looking for character-wise, right? And then step 5 is going to be the process, and they have to understand a step-by-step process of making a team and then becoming part of the team and becoming significant to the team, growing with the team, and then contributing. And we really are going to get into this stuff when we get to that step 5 and we really go over it. All right? So if you're interested in doing this, all right, you just listen to this part, it's time to get after it. So if you understand what I'm saying and you took notes, then we're going to move on into step 1. So make sure you're prepared, because we don't want to move on to the next step unless we're ready and committed as trainers to do this for our athletes. That's what I'm trying to say to you. So if you need to listen to this again, listen to it again before you move into the next step.